This is Conversation for Adults with Jimmy Israel.
The number you have dialed has been changed.
By the time I was that age, my dad was very much, we were middle class, and it was almost like assumed you're going to go to college, but they didn't push us. I thought my parents were great because they didn't push us, and then later I found out they didn't care enough. They let us do our thing. But my dad, when I was a musician, he wasn't as happy about that. And he was very happy when I became a comic later on down the road. But he was worried about me in general, about making a living.
Conversation for Adults.
What is that I got over there? You put like a little gin in your yogurt or no?
No. I'm more of a weed guy. I can't see you though. Are you?
I'm sorry. Let me fix that. Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah,
hey, great to see you.
Good to be seen. Yeah, I don't have. I got that. I got that really super expensive avatar done by OK Pants, who does a lot of stuff for a lot of comedians. He's done stuff for Patton Oswalt and
oh wow,
and Wyatt Cenac and Hannibal Buress, and so I got that super expensive dealie done. And, my hair doesn't look anything like that.
It's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm sorry I have yogurt. This is my wife complains about my old Jewishness. There you go.
I mean, what don't wives complain about? I remember those days, those halcyon days of old, Yeah. So as you can see, I just recently got my haircut updated Friday. Was it Friday or it was Thursday? But the haircut I got before that was at the Cleveland Clinic, where they had to crack my fucking head open because.
Oh no, that's right.
Yeah. I'm
How come they had to cut your head out? Do they do that all the time on a stroke or?
This is my first stroke. So
that's the funniest thing ever. Andy, I don't have all the information.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm on the same thing as you. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, ask me like 2 or 3 strokes in, because I have those friends, sadly, that are like 2 or 3 strokes in, and it's become like a hobby. Like they're amateur stroke victim. But
was it scary?
I don't know, because I passed out. So
you passed out pretty quick?
Relatively quick. My lady friend took me to the hospital, and so I don't remember anything past. Do you think I need to go to the hospital? Because I had this pretty massive headache for 2 weeks, which I just basically attributed to my family, because my family are dicks, ended up cutting them off anyway. So, long story short, she took my blood pressure, and it was something like, 300 over 1,062. And it was like, okay, well, maybe we better go to an emergency. And all I can think of is how expensive is that, So, I mean, I got good medical, but even with, I was just like, So I guess by the time we got there, and a few minutes after, I'd passed out. And speaking of expensive, they flew in a goddamn a helicopter.
Oh my God!
They helicoptered me to the main campus of Cleveland Clinic, where they do exceptional work. And the next day I woke up and I was like, and I had one of those things down, the ventilator down my throat.
Oh my God, that's pretty intense.
It is intense. Yeah. I mean, it goes behind your heart. When they put it down your throat, like John Holmes, and that one girl or guy. And
John Holmes did what?
John Holmes, I was just saying they put it down your throat like John Holmes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a deep throat thing.
Just like. Yeah. and probably taste about as good. But and I was just sitting there like, what's going on? And they told me what happened. And they cracked it. They cracked my head open pretty good. I'm exaggerating for sure. But I mean, there's if you were here, you could probably see where there's like a part on the side of my head where they stitched it up. There were staples there up until last week. They took the staples out, and there was a goodly amount of blood on my cranium, on my brain.
Oh, it just sometimes that's where the blood came out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
they may have just put like a straw in there. I don't know, and just sucked it out. But I ended up doing 6 days and I came out a little weirded out, but no worse for wear. I told you that. Yeah, did I tell you the one story?
No, I don't think so. Well, maybe you did. I'll hear the story.
Yeah, right. You'll hear the story. So I hadn't been on my feet in like a couple. Like I got in on a Wednesday night, and they started walking me around on Monday, which is also close to the day I got out 2 weeks ago.
Oh. Well.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm flashing back. You know, just do like squiggly lines. So yeah, they're walking me around, and I have this irritant. I'm in my gown, and I'm just like, I have this irritant. It's my wiener, and my wiener is hard like I'm 14 years old.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And it was pretty intense when I was 14. But also, put yourself here. When you're 14, it's kind of irritating because you don't know what's going on.
No.
And right. And I hadn't all the way come back yet. So I'm walking around the ICU ward, stroking them. Up. This is 100% true.
Oh my God!
On the eyes of my children.
Yeah.
Under my gown. I mean, not like porno style, but
right.
But because of a couple things. Number one, it's more irritating than erotic. I mean, it's just like, and also I don't have. This was the moment I realized after 2 laps around the ICU, and the guy that was giving me the laps, he was playing Sudoku. Then suddenly, and then he looks over. He's like, bro. He's like, if you keep doing that, you're not going to be very popular. And I looked over at him, and I was just about to say, you don't know my dick, bro. You know, I was just about to just say, you don't know how popular my dick is. You know, and then it occurred to me at this moment, this is 100% true. It occurred to me that my senses had returned, but perhaps my sensibilities hadn't returned. So
wow, that makes so much sense.
So I called in the neurological team because I can't live my life as a college professor and father of 3 jerking it, you know, in the streets. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And they said, well, yada, yada, yada. You know, the stroke kind of happened in the same hemisphere of your head where impulse.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Lives. And also, but my stutter's gone mostly. But they said, you know, that the fact that I had a realization was a good thing, and chances are good it would taper off, and it did. I mean, I haven't done it since, but it was kind of like the shock of enlightenment. It was kind of like it was kind of like you're waking up out of a coma, and you're not really knowing. I didn't have any idea what I was doing was inappropriate. As a matter of fact, I remember distinctly, like they were walking through the hallway, like, why isn't everybody else? Like I would just look at everybody, and I was just like, huh. You know, and he wasn't getting off or anything. I mean, he wasn't.
Yeah.
There was nothing like that. Like I said, it was more like an irritant. It was more like I was scratching an edge.
Yeah. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Why was it hard? Why was it hard? Just because you can't control it, or it's just
that's just life, baby. I don't know. But I don't know how to be outside. I don't have any idea. I don't have any fucking idea. I mean, it could have just been a physiological reaction to
right
to better circulation. I don't know. Or it could have just been like morning glory times 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind, I hadn't actually walked in 6 days. You know, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But
Andy, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You know, like I have terrible OCD. I mean, that's like it's like I used to think in my 20s I was driving in a car, and that maybe I hit someone in the car. So I drove around the block to see if I hit someone. I didn't realize this was back in 1978. I didn't realize a lot of people didn't have it back then, you know? So if it was me in that, I would have been, I would have been thinking well, I don't have it as bad now. I mean, I'm able to deal with it, but I would have been thinking for 4 months. Okay, now I have to explain to that guy what happened and why my penis was hard. Now I have to explain to this lady. And that's what I would do. And I go, I'm a college professor. I'm sunk.
I think at that moment, well, I was lucky. I was lucky in a couple counts. Number one, it's ICU, so everybody's kind of out of it. But I do remember distinctly people looking and then looking away, looking and then looking away. And I think because it was a neurological ward, I think there was just there was a McMurphy-ness to it. There was a it's like, oh, okay, another one. There was that. There was a and I had the stitch in my head, so there was a real McMurphy, kind of vibe going on. Like, oh, fucking A, But before we go much further, I have to introduce Andy Kindler.
Okay, should I switch to my regular? I have an actual USB mic. Should I switch to that?
You're good, bro.
Okay, I'm good. All right.
Yeah, you're good. Welcome to Conversation. Welcome to Conversation for Adults.
We already started. I don't know if people realize this. We have already started. We're both adults, and we already started talking.
Roll credits. I don't. I mean, yeah. I'll say what?
You didn't say 3, 2, 1. You didn't say. You didn't say 3, 2, 1, or you have some introductory remarks.
I never do. I never do. It's good to have you on.
I'm very excited. This is really fun for me. I'm so glad.
I remember we were talking. I wanted to clarify something because I'm a big John Benjamin fan. I remember saying to you that I hadn't seen Bob's Burgers, and in some large part due to it wasn't like a boycott of a John Benjamin, but it was just I felt because I know him initially from
Dr. Katz.
Dr. Katz, thank you. And then he did a thing. Didn't he do a couple voices on home movies as you did as well?
Yes. Well, he was Coach Nagurk. Yes. He was the actual coach.
Yes, he was the coach.
Yeah.
He was the coach. And then he pivots to Archer. And then I'm like, And then it seems like maybe for the last 5 years of my life, he's voiced every single character, in pop culture. And I heard rumors he was going to play Malcolm X. And I was just like, you know what? I just but it was the Arby's commercial that did it for me. The Arby's.
That was too much. Yeah.
I was just like, man, it was a bridge too far. It was just like, man, it's like you can't be the only middle-aged Jewish guy in Hollywood. I mean, share the goddamn love, bro. Share the goddamn love. At a certain point, you're overexposed. I think John Benjamin may be. God bless him, by the way.
Right.
But he may, in fact, be the definition of overexposure.
But it's so weird because for so long, let's say first of all that his voice is so. I mean, to me, his voice is so much like in my soul. From Dr. Katz.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was telling you about that other show, Dick and Paula, which was another show that was on Spike, and then it never saw the light of day. But for so long, he was so talented, but no one really. I mean, everyone recognized it, but I think it's very hard. No one's offered me Arby's, so but I would probably
hang in there.
I always say like it's always easy to see when someone's exposed a lot to go, oh, I don't know if I want to be exposed that much, but for him, he had a career that was still many people don't know who he is.
Right. Yeah. It's like feast or famine. Excuse me. It's like Tom and Bobcat. It's like at first nobody heard of him. Then all of a sudden, everybody's heard of him. So
you know about Tom Kenny and Bobcat's relationship?
Bro, I'm only a professional journalist and something of a geek. Yeah.
Oh my God. So we really could have a conversation that would probably not end up anywhere and just keep going in a million different directions. You could probably one-to-one TV reference me.
Almost certainly. Yeah. I noticed because I also noticed that you are you're an Andy Griffith fan because I saw you had and I'm
I grew up on that show.
I did as well. And mainly I watch even now on MeTV, which is probably regional. MeTV is just reruns.
No, it's national. MeTV.
Oh, okay, good.
Get Get TV, Antenna TV.
Yeah. So yeah, I watch Andy Griffith religiously. All the black and whites, not so much the colored ones.
Yeah, they weren't as good then.
They were not as good.
No,
They were not
no.
as good. Yeah, they jumped the shark when Don Knotts had to he went to go pursue his movie career. When he blew up with fucking A.
Not Three's Company, right? Before.
No, this is way
Mr.
before.
Fish. Mr.
Yeah,
Fish.
yeah,
Goes to,
this was God damn it, you're gonna make me think. Mr. Limpet, the fish,
Mr. Limpet, yeah.
the fish that helped out with the war effort, which was brilliant, but also propaganda at the same time. But Don Knotts was brilliant in that. But after he left to kind of do his thing with the Apple Dumpling Gang and all that kind of shit, it kind of just
which wasn't as funny. Another thing he did was as fun. Well, I mean, I guess he could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Get my scary hands. Okay.
I enjoyed him in Three's Company, but he wasn't as good as Mark Fell.
That show was too. Mark Felt is Deep Throat.
No, well, who? You're right. Who played Mr. Roper?
Yeah, I know that guy. No, but it's like I was too old for that show, so I never even watched it. I know who's on it.
I'm
looking at sitcom regular. The other guy too.
Yeah. He was. I'm looking it up.
Not Gordon Jump, but not Dick Van Patten. But
Norman Fell.
Yes.
Norman Fell.
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to get any sleep if I didn't correct that.
And he's very funny in a lot.
Norman Fell was hilarious in Three's Company. But yeah, who the hell knows? I mean, I'm also a big fan of Don Knotts' appearances on Matlock. Later appearances on Matlock.
I never watched Matlock. It's so funny how a lot of it has to do with when you grew up. I never watched Matlock. I was more, well, everybody loves Columbo. I'm Columbo. I'm addicted to Columbo.
Listen here. Excuse me, miss. Right. That's not bad, huh?
You do good voices. I can tell you do good voices.
Tell me about the first show.
I don't do good voices. I just do my voice.
We're gonna talk about your voices because I think you do good voices. I think you play a good journalist on Everybody Loves Raymond. You play a good sports writer.
I like being an agent too. I played agents a few times. If I could just play an agent, I'd be thrilled. I love it.
Do you recall the first TV show you saw?
Oh, TV show I saw when I was a kid. I used to watch. It was this block. Was like Superman, the old Superman serial. Our family loved that. Dick Van Dyke. Dick Van Dyke was one of the early ones. I watched The Honeymooners. I love Jackie Gleason.
Yeah,
and I watched. But there's all these shows that were on and some of them weren't that good. Donna Reed wasn't that good. I loved Leave It to Beaver when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So I grew up on sitcoms because I was trying to replace my own. Now that I've been in therapy, which I got into therapy late, like at age 59, which for a Jew is very late. Mm-hmm. I realize now that I was trying to make up for my, I wanted that life for my family. That wasn't happening in my family. I mean, I didn't have a horrible family, but I had a lot of issues. And I looked in those shows and they seemed like perfect families.
Tell me about your family. You guys are out of New York, right?
Yeah, this is yes. I'm out of New York, and I was born in Queens in 1956, and the last couple of years have been rough. I think I may have mentioned that to you. I don't know. I lost my dad in 2015, and I lost my mom and sister. That's right, in March from COVID.
Jeez.
It was no, not from COVID, because that's not from because I kept thinking. This is so bad. And on top of that, I have to explain to everybody, no, it's not from COVID. Oh, I know. It seems like it should be from COVID.
Okay.
But no, my sister had been sick for a lot of years. And then my father was born 26. My mother was born 29. And my mother was my mother 90? I think she had just turned 90.
Wow.
Yeah. And my father.
That's a good run.
Yeah, it was a good run. Absolutely. And she had Parkinson's that she got later in life, which is not a good disease. Mm-hmm. It's can be really. It's such a weird disease.
Sure. How did your parents meet?
My dad, who was my comedy hero growing up, because he was so funny. My dad was just funny every second of the day, and they met. My dad grew up in Jackson Heights in Queens, and his father was a plumber, and they came from his father, and not so much my mother's family. They were here earlier. My father's family all came from like Russia and and Eastern Europe type of thing, and so they lived in Jackson Heights, and then I grew up in White. I was raised in Whitestone.
Hmm.
You're, you know New York pretty good.
No, not at
Oh,
all.
it's
I
like
know. I know Brooklyn, and I know the 4 train.
it's the Queen. It's just Queens.
Okay. Yeah.
It's in Queen in a nondescript. The area I grew up in was like a nice area with trees and like it's a 6 block area that has like we just sold my parents' house
Mm-hmm.
and well it was they bought it for $30,000 and
Jesus.
and it was we sold it for $1.2 million.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
but there still was no profit. Well, when my mom got sick, and so we kind of like we didn't go through Tom Selleck, but I think
Mhm.
my brother did like a reverse mortgage or.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't trust Tom Selleck to loan me $5, much less.
But he's so I love the way he starts that commercially like
Mhm.
a reverse mortgage is not a way for me to rip off your house. If that's what you think. He is so guilt ridden during that commercial.
Right.
So I was the youngest. My brother is the middle, and my sister was the oldest. So my sister was born in 1951, and I was born in 1956. And for so long, I was so lucky. I had everybody. I was like, I kept waiting for someone to die because I had such good luck with that.
Mhm.
You know, so the last year was pretty intense because now I'm just left with my brother.
Mm. Wow.
I don't want to say it. I don't mean that. He has kids too, so we have I have nephews and nieces, and I don't have any kids. You have 3 kids.
Long life for your brother, bro. Long life.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so what did your people do? What did your dad do for a living?
My dad was my dad's father was a plumber, and my dad was a very bright guy, and he went to Indiana University. But then my dad's dad, my grandfather, had a heart attack, and so my father got kind of thrown into the business.
Mm-hmm.
But also because I talked to him about it, like when I was grown, but he didn't like. He was interested in like psychology and things like that, but he got very disgruntled with it, and he tried to do social work, which he didn't like. So he wasn't finding something he loved. And then my grandfather got sick, and then my father turned it into a contracting business. And he did very well. He was in business with my uncle, and then they sold the business, and so that's what my father did. But I remember asking him, I said, "How come you couldn't?" I said, "You would be a great stand-up comic, you know." And he goes, "Are you crazy?" He goes, "Are you crazy? I had three kids by the time you could turn around and breathe, you know."
Right.
So there was no choice. I feel so blessed that I had lived in a time period where I could have a choice, you know.
Yeah, you went to that one college,
Binghamton.
Thank you. What was your major there?
English literature, and I was a theater minor. So I did a lot of theater there. No, English literature, theater, history minor, and I did a lot of theater. But the theater department was based on this voice coach named Arthur Lesack, who was a famous voice coach, and he drew all this money to Binghamton. And if you wanted to be a theater major, you had to do like 10 of these courses where you went, because he was a voice guy. So the whole thing was like, how do you get to your soul of a character by understanding the vowel? It's terrible. Right. But I did all the theater. Paul Reiser went to Paul. I'm the same age as Paul Reiser, who I didn't know in school. Carol Leifer, remember her? Carol Leifer is who Elaine was based on Seinfeld. Very funny stand-up comic.
Okay.
And so, but I didn't know her there. But an amazing theater department. And people I've kept in touch with my whole life. Just the greatest people, very, very talented people.
How'd that go over with your people? Because I know in the Midwest, if your dad is a contract plumber or he works with his hands, and you tell him you go into a liberal arts college, he's going to kill you in your sleep. You know, so how did that go over with your family when you told them that you were going to pursue the liberal arts?
Well, here's the thing. I've now learned, and learning all this with therapy. Sure. I learned, and I love you, Dad, wherever you are. And But my dad was very smart, and I thought he was the smartest person in the world. And he
Mhm.
was very, very bright. But he made me feel, without realizing it, like I wasn't as smart. It's just kind of the way he would be. Like, he's like, let's talk about physics. Well, there's so much you need to know before we can talk about it. He had that kind of an energy to him. So he actually was not. He actually had a lot of interest. He was very cerebral, and he
Mhm.
was a terrible plumber, absolutely the worst plumber in the world. Except that he took the class to become a master plumber
Yeah.
because they could use his. That's how you had to get a contracting license. So
Mhm.
he actually was terrible with his hands,
Mhm.
and and not good, not handy, not good at fixing things, and
Mhm.
so was very lucky to have. I think he told me this that Con Edison, remember Con Ed?
Yes. I don't remember,
Yeah,
but I know of Con Ed. Yes.
yeah. They had
Mhm.
something to do with natural gas, and then my dad got into that business. I think my dad was a very good businessman because he saw this market of natural gas while it was
Mhm.
getting popular, and so he never was a. His grandfather was. His grandfather, my grandfather, was like an amazing person. He was scared of nothing. He would
Mhm.
go into these basements, just throw the rats out of the way, or get out of here. I gotta,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So it was like, and once he was on the boardwalk in Atlantic City or something, and someone said, "Give me all your money." He goes, "I'm not giving you all my money. I've worked hard." I mean, he was now cut to me,
Right.
crying, worried,
Mhm.
bullied.
Mhm.
The Jewish courage didn't come down, but he was absolutely fearless that way. So it's pretty interesting.
All this suggests to me that he probably wasn't immediately supportive of your studies choice at the
Oh
college.
well, my dad, but my dad was like, by the time I was that age, my dad was very much. We were middle class, and it was almost like assumed you're going to go to college. But they didn't push us. My parents, I thought my parents were great because they didn't push us, and then later I found out they didn't care enough.
Mm.
So they just did. They let us do our thing. They didn't push. But my dad, when I was a musician, he wasn't as happy about that, and he was
Mm.
very happy when I became a comic later on down the road. But he was worried about me
Wow.
in general,
Mhm.
about making a living.
Yeah, you don't have kids, do you?
So,
Yeah, I don't know. You're kind of hard on your old man because I have three,
mhm.
and let me just say, part of the job description being a dad is like kind of being like a dick. To your kid. Yeah, I mean that you have to kind of suppress what you feel your kid's greatness is as kind of reverse psychology, like the idea, yeah, I'm sure Mozart's dad was like, yeah, you son of a. When I was a kid, and I just think you have to, being a dick is just kind of part and parcel of the process. Like my kid, my son, my youngest son, we get along better now. But we fought a lot. We fought a lot about some of the things he's interested in or wasn't interested in. Son of a, I shouldn't say son of a, but yeah, he is kind of a son of a. Anyway,
How do you like what like throughout his whole life, or just when he was making choices
when he was
about?
making choices, like he chose to, he dropped out of high school, like his old man. I dropped out of high school. My mom dropped out of high school. My dad dropped out of high school. My biological dad dropped out of high school. And I was like, what the fuck? Why do you have to continue every fucking tradition? It's like, please God, don't have any fucking kids out of wedlock now.
Right.
But the thing is, I figured it out. And I mean, when I dropped out of high school, I figured shit out. And um, I just wish he didn't have to. I think as a father, you just don't want your kids
Suffering.
to get stars in their eyes and
Yeah, yeah.
suffer and make your mistakes. Because you don't want them to end up like you. And that's you don't want them to travel your path. I mean, because
Right, right.
I do pretty well. But my path was tough. My path was going into coffee shops, eating off people's plates when they went to the bathroom.
Oh, so you
Um,
were very poor.
um, I was very stupid. Yeah, I wasn't. I mean, I had my own place, but I didn't know how to manage my money.
Right.
So, I didn't get in college until seriously in college, probably till like my middle 20s, and yeah, I was too busy like nailing every chick that moved, and yeah, and it
I
was,
never had that problem. The women were not running towards me.
dude. I've seen some of your younger pictures, but you look like you kind of, might have had a
I think
wagon.
I had a little game.
Yeah, you might have driven a pussy wagon through the streets
Yeah,
of,
I don't remember that. I think I would have remembered that.
okay, through the streets of Queens. But yeah, being a dad is kind of tough. Do you? I mean, there's still a chance, maybe. I mean, because you're married.
Oh no, there's no chance. I'm 64.
Well, your boys still swim those, right? At 64,
Oh.
yeah.
Well, I haven't asked them, but no, I don't. I just realized that maybe you're right. Maybe we need to. No, I think we both passed the.
Mm.
I think if I had been single, maybe I would have had. My wife and I, we got married in 2002, and we met in 1992. So we kind of got married.
I see.
By the time we were married, it was too late for us to have kids.
She's beautiful, by the way. You don't deserve her.
Did she tell you that?
No.
Did she tell you that?
No, I think having been married 3 times, I think the big note is always cross your fingers and hit on the girl you don't deserve and pray, just pray a lot. And maybe you get lucky. And it looks like you got lucky. So
oh yeah. And the thing I was going to say about my dad was actually my dad was he was very funny.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was that because I saw my dad as my hero, I didn't kind of accept him as a human being. And then later on, I went through a weird thing in my life. And it was really interesting to me when I read The Quitter, because it wasn't until I got into therapy 5 years ago that I realized that I have a tremendous fear of being beaten up. I had a tremendous fear of being beaten up my entire life. And I felt I wasn't a man unless I could fight. Mm-hmm. And I was bullied as a small kid and didn't see any way out of it. Mm-hmm. And just thought that I wasn't a man because I really thought this. So like when I read Harvey Picar's book many, many years ago, I was reading it from the point of view, like, why couldn't I be more like Harvey when he was a kid? But Harvey isn't saying, boy, am I glad I fought all these people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I just got this real male thing that a man has to fight. And you also, it's backed up by Billy Jack, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Billy Jack. You know what? I'm going to take my foot and put it on the right side of your head, and there's nothing you can do. This is how I fancied myself that I would have to do it, because I did not understand that you don't have to fight. You don't have to physically fight.
Sure.
For me, the issue was the opposite of what other people's issues might be, where to me, once I realized that being a man had nothing to do with fighting, I let go of the fear.
Well, yeah, and that segues nicely into how we came to each other's acquaintance, because you read my my epilogue in Harvey's book, Harvey Picar's Cleveland.
Such a great book and such a great thing you wrote about him. It was very inspiring. I don't ever email, and it was like I gotta find out where you are, and I started to, because it was so. I think it's also one of the hardest things to write is to be able to convey someone's soul. And like you did, and you really did. It got to me, It was really.
I appreciate that. I came up on Harvey's work, and interestingly enough, I would find out later when I became the Harvey Picar Scholar, or one. Or
I
one
love
of,
it.
Or one of a few. I think there are like 3. That I also came up in the same neighborhood where Harvey came up, because Harvey, his people were immigrants, and he had to do a lot of fighting, not for nothing, because the demographics of his neighborhood were changing fairly rapidly as a lot of Jewish immigrants started to get a little bit of money. They started to move up Kinsman, and his people had a shop on Kinsman.
Right.
And
like a grocery store,
like a deli,
right?
like a deli / grocery store.
And he describes what they sold, and I mean, I love all that about it.
And but the people that left, they to their credit, I guess it depends on how you want to look at this, but they started renting to black people, and that's how that neighborhood changed. And Harvey was still in that neighborhood as it was changing. It was I don't want to call it's not reverse gentrification. It's just the other way,
Right.
gentrification.
Yeah.
And he was an other. He was an other, and he was also an other in a really rough time in a really rough city. Where people. I mean, it's like a goddamn song from the city. Hot time, summer in the city. Back of my neck. I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, that's real time. And people are angry. Black people are angry. The Italians are angry. The Irish are angry here. The Jews aren't as angry because they've been here a while. They were here,
right.
and they were figuring out mobility. They were figuring out upward mobility. You buy a piece of property, you buy a duplex. You move in your cousins from the old land. You guys pool your money together. You buy a deli. Then you move out of that duplex. You rent it, and then you move further up Kinsman until Kinsman becomes Pepper Pike. But anyway, but yeah. So Harvey had to fight because his neighborhood was changing, and he was one of the last, or him and that's not accurate, but he was among the last stalwart whites in his neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it was during a time where there was some, because I have this conversation with my Jewish friends, because all my white friends are Jewish, but my Jewish friends aren't white. But but
they tell me online now. The Nazis tell me online now that I'm not white.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
That's one of their things, that Jews aren't white.
Right. Well, at any rate,
yeah.
There used to be like a symbiosis, at least here in Cleveland. There was a symbiosis between the Jewish community and the black community, because we were both oppressed,
Right. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
and then the riots, and then everything changed after that. And then
my grandparents were racist.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Really?
They weren't racist. It's weird because my family always voted Democratic,
mm-hmm.
and they always were progressive.
Mm-hmm.
Even my grandfather and grandmother, but my grandmother would talk about that element.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you down there because of that element. So she definitely had an opinion about black people. And I think a lot of Jews did get racist. I didn't realize how many until Bush and Trump. Like, there was a whole right-wing Jewish thing. I thought there were no right-wing Jews.
Well, when I hear that element, I wonder if that's more class related than race related.
I think it is. I think it's so interesting you say that. I think it is. My grandparents never would have used like the
mm-hmm.
N-word, or never would have said something
mm-hmm.
overtly. You know what, though? I think they did say things in Yiddish.
Mm. Well, I mean, because black people say that shit, but behind closed doors. It's like my grandfather, who was in the Congress for Racial Equality.
Poor.
Yeah,
I know these things. I'm too young to know. I'm not too young. Sorry.
No, you're not. He told me what niggas and flies I do despise. The more I know niggas, the more I like flies. And I remember I was like 13, and I was like, what? What I'm getting to is that I think every race, every community has its own predisposed ideas about race, about class, and they want to hold themselves above people and a certain element. It's kind of like from Saturday Night Fever, when in one of the last scenes he has with the Faces, John Travolta says, everybody has to shit on everybody. We shit on the blacks shit on the gays, and the gays shit on each other. So that's not the line, but it's close to that. It's close to that. And I thought that was, for a pretty interesting movie. I thought that was I thought
Saturday Night Fever was a pretty damn good movie.
Yeah, I thought that was a really heady observation, that, in America, there are just these layers of prejudice and hate that are exacerbated by just this feeling that everybody has to feel superior to somebody,
Right.
And yeah. And at that particular time, Tony, I forget his fucking name. The character he played in that. And that
And I forgot what movie we're talking about.
Saturday Night Fever.
John Travolta.
Yeah, But John Travolta played Tony.
I forget his last name. Yeah,
you're gonna
with
make
the two
me look
slices
it
of
up.
pizza.
Yeah, no, yeah. Hold
When
on
he
a
eats
second.
the two slices of pizza, so great. Yeah,
But I'm just saying, I just think there's this predilection we all have that we kind of want to do better than people. We all want to do better than somebody, and we all
Right.
have to believe that we're better. And I think Harvey just kind of got caught because Harvey was a sweet guy, and I don't know what you know about his work, but
I know. I think I've read everything that he's written.
But then his mom used to tell him, to not foster any ill feelings toward Black people because we were all essentially in the same boat, and later on in life, he was a super sweet guy, and I think, I think a lot of people read his work as Tony Manero is the name of the character.
Oh, I can't believe you remember the last name.
I couldn't deal if I couldn't get his last name right. But but it's interesting that I remember my mother-in-law who worked with Harvey Picar. She really felt my ex-mother-in-law, my first mother-in-law, was kind of but she felt as if Harvey fetished Black people, and that he used his position to them in the community to write about as fodder for his comic book. And I thought that was a pretty harsh criticism. And
do you see it would be hard for me to see that. See, like when I read, because I have terrible OCD.
Yeah.
Part of the OCD is I'm always thinking, am I doing the right thing? So like as I'm reading Harvey, I'm like, well, I'm not Black. So is this, it seems to me that he's portraying people as he perceived them, but would have not been sensitive to what, was your grandma or your mom? Your mother?
It was my mother-in-law.
Mother, yeah. So I don't see that at all, but you see, there must be something.
It was one of our first conversations because he used to have Robert Crumb draw for him. And if you know Robert Crumb,
I know all this stuff, yeah.
He makes everybody look fucked up. And I was like, why do Black people look so fucked up in your comic book? And he explained, and they look and sound fucked up. And he just explained to me the value as a writer and as a creative of just portraying people as you perceive them, not trying to beatify them or make them into bigger than they are. That there's a real value but also the Jews looked kind of. I mean, they had those accents in his work.
Yes.
Yeah. So it helped me. It helped me a lot. It helped me a lot as a writer and as a reader. Understand that not everything has to be in the cause of PR. That that some things are just works of art, and like American Splendor. So
yeah.
So but I digress.
But as a comedian, though,
yeah.
I see it different in a way because being a comedian is so self-aware. Like I now am very open to and actually feel ashamed about myself. Like when I would be in high school and I would actually have this thought, why is that Black guy, because there was a lot of busing going on.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, why is that Black guy not like me? Mm-hmm. Because I grew up with a mom who was very depressed and my dad was like at work when he came home, we'd kid around. But my mother was not the best, and I love her, but she was not the best mother. So I thought there was something wrong with me. So then that's how I would interpret all situations that I had been doing something wrong. So how did I get off on that?
I was about to ask you when you became a comedian.
Yeah. So I know, I scared you. I noticed that back in high school, I didn't understand. And I'm thinking about this now. We didn't know about Reconstruction. I remember reading Reconstruction. And I remember even as a kid, what the fuck are they saying here, really?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really understand. Here's a picture of a guy with a carpet bag. In other words, we were not taught this stuff. So I get ashamed because I think that's classic white privilege. Like wondering why a guy who's angry at me, he's not, like I'm so upset because he's angry at me. Like I didn't do anything. But then as you grow and you get historical, but I do feel like there's a lot of class things that people don't realize that I've had to realize. Just you have to, if you don't realize it, you just keep going along thinking the world is a certain way.
When you became a comedian, did you channel that confusion into your work? And when did you become a comedian? How did that come about?
Okay, so I went to Binghamton. My whole comedy career was started out doing my mother. And see, your cousin Michael's going to college. Oh, you know all this from Dr. Katz. You studied English literature. Would that be a nice subject for your cousin Michael? You studied the violin. Would that be a good instrument for your cousin Michael? Or would you prefer that he plays clarinet or a wind instrument? So I came out of Binghamton. I drove cross country in 1978 to be a singer-songwriter guitarist. That's what I wanted. That's all I thought I wanted to be, was the next Bob Dylan. And I drove out to LA to do that. And I failed miserably for a few years and then just stumbled into comedy. And then it was like, oh my God. It really was an amazing from there, because there's something very egalitarian about stand-up comedy. I'm like my mother, walking around with tissues. There's something very egalitarian about stand-up. Anybody really can go and pick a thing into a bowl. Whereas music was like a whole, I was so scared to go out to these music clubs when I first moved to LA. So I never really pursued music except to be in cover bands. So when I started doing stand-up, I was like, I happened to start during the comedy boom. So very quickly, from 1987 to 1992, I was on the road like 40 weeks a year.
Wow.
It just took off. And so I feel very lucky about that, because my view of myself was always very negative. So that's what informed a lot of my early 20s. And I didn't realize that till therapy, that I kind of hated myself. I didn't think I hated myself.
Talk about those early days in comedy while I turn on the light over here. Tell me about those early days.
Okay. So let me see. So what happened was in 1984, I was selling stereos back during the 80s, when you could actually, I wrote a script about this one. They were actually like you could make money selling stereos.
Right.
And it was and so it was a kind of a fun thing I was always like trying to be funny and stuff like that. And so I was at a picnic for the stereo store. I just started making fun of all the people, at the thing, because I really was on. I loved to be on and all that. And my guy there named Bill, he goes, hey, we should try comedy together. So that was a good thing. I was so gun shy from music that it was good that I had another person to start with. So I was in a duo from 1984 to 1986. It was called Andy and Bill. And as Tom Sharpley once said to me, which one were you? Oh, okay.
That's not bad.
So then I decided that I really kind of like it's very restrictive to be in a comedy duo. I don't recommend it. It's very hard.
I'll write that down.
Write that down. But my comedy partner was a therapist. He ended up being a marriage, family, child counselor. I mean, that's what he ended up back doing. But he hadn't been doing that yet, so he was selling stereos. So and he's a very funny guy, and we had a lot of fun doing it, but I just hated collaborating in that way. And then when I went on my own, it just was like a whirlwind in certain ways, because I got a lot of work fast. And it was like, but now don't forget, I started in 1984, I was already 28 years old. So
who managed you? Did you ever get managed by Barry Katz?
No, I had the same. Here's the thing that's weird. I started out in LA, which is always weird for people because I'm not from LA. Yeah. So I went back to New York in the late 80s, and I did stand up New York, and I met all those guys, but I didn't have any of those East Coast people. Even like being on Raymond, I didn't know Raymond from stand up. I knew him from I knew him from stand up. We were both on the Young Comedian special together, but we didn't start. He started in Queens, and I started in LA. So, and the only reason why I started in LA was because I lived here. It wasn't like a plan. I would have had to go to a smaller city.
You were a judge on Last Comic Standing, right?
Yes, I was. I was. Yeah.
That was Barry Katz's show.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. How did you end? How did you? Yeah, you've had. I mean, and you're still having a good run. But how did you pivot from all of that, from TV to stand up to voices? How did you make that pivot? It doesn't seem like a natural pivot to me.
Well, it's not a natural pivot in a lot of ways because for about 5 years after, and this is after Dr. Katz and after everything I've ever gotten from in like whatever you want to call it, show business. I mean, like I always say, I'm not in show business, but I can see the campfires.
Yeah.
But it's always from recommendation. So Lauren Bouchard, who's the creator of Bob's Burgers, I've been friends with him back since Dr. Katz started.
Wow.
Which was like early 90s or whatever, or maybe late 80s. I don't remember. But but for 5 years, I had a voiceover agent and I couldn't get anything. This is after Dr. Katz. It just was like, I hated it so much. Well, first of all, a lot of people do it from their home now.
Yeah.
But for some reason, me saying $65 and with if you buy two, you get one back free. Anything that was sincere, they knew I wasn't being serious. They could tell how. So I never got any work of the classic voiceovers. And so I don't see any connection. I think it's all from the comedy. It's all from the comedy because I always say the voice of two people, a young Jewish man and an old Jewish man.
You have a cynical inflection in your nasal cavity that would preclude you doing like a tampon commercial, or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't believe you, if you did like a Tampax commercial and like, yeah, you can wear it for 3 days. You'll be fine. I mean, so yeah, I mean, and I get it. I did NPR, but I did NPR in my in this voice. Yeah, in my educated code switchy
What does code switchy mean?
Code switchy means this is my natural voice. But I'm not putting on for you. I'm not. Code switching is oh Jesus, are you gonna make me do this? I think you are, but it's all right. Let's do it. I'm down. So code switching, for those of you that don't know, is when Black people have to speak to white people, and we have to speak to them in a language that they understand and a tone that they understand, that isn't intimidating, that doesn't sound aggressive, and my code switchy way is professorial. Like this is who I am in front of the class, basically. I still fucking cuss. I'm still obnoxious. I'm still me, but I'm not as quick to say nigga. And it's also about just knowing who your audience is.
Right.
Basically. So almost every Black person in your life probably code switches, and you just don't know. They don't discuss it with you. But now you can say, you can look at them when they come over like, I know what you're doing.
How about that guy Wharton? You know that guy Wharton? His whole thing is he's a Black guy who is John Wharton, and he was always talking.
You got me on that one. I got.
Oh, okay. But his whole thing was he was kind of a conservative. So I would watch people like him, and he would say he doesn't like the way other Black people talk. Or
yeah, I don't know that guy.
He's actually like a kind of a well-known guy, so I don't know why he got up. But the whole idea of like that you have to talk a certain way, and I'll never forget Bill Cosby said that to Wanda Sykes before he was caught.
Before he was caught. Yeah.
But at some Emmys. Wanda Sykes was like saying to Bill Cosby, it's so great to see you. He's like, you were in the sitcoms too. And he goes, yes, but when I was in sitcoms, we spoke English.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know that story. I do know that story.
You remember that? I saw that line.
I know the story. I know that story.
Yeah. Now, here's what I will say to you that is so good to hear you say it, because in my life as a comedian, because we're talking about these, in my life as a comedian, like I used to do a lot of material where I would say, I would try to yell at show business. That was what I got into this thing where I would say, whenever they have a show and there's all Black people on it, and then they don't renew it, they go, we tried the black people.
Yeah,
It didn't
yeah,
work
yeah.
out. But they never say with a show with white people that, we tried the white people. They didn't work out. So
That's interesting.
Yeah, so all of this built-in prejudice. But I would see a lot of like I thought Wanda Sykes, when I first saw her, I thought she was putting on a lot of mustard onto her voice. And back in the what was it, Def Jam days?
Def Jam comedy.
I think that I was kind of like didn't even understand. Like I love Chappelle, and I was in Chappelle even back then. But I still had this very much like if I heard a black person talk a certain way, and I thought they were feeding into being a hack, I would kind of like characterize it, and that was kind of fucked up. I think.
Let me ask you this. I'm happy that we're here, and don't let me forget to tell you that I took a meeting with Barry Katz, and
he's a.
I love Barry. I love Barry.
Right.
Yeah. I took a meeting with Barry Katz. Don't let me forget to tell you that story. But
tell me, you want to tell me now or no?
Actually, I want to go here first.
Okay,
I want to know if you think there's such a thing, if funny is funny, or if there's black humor and white humor. I would suggest to you that both things are true. That funny is funny, but there is black humor and there is white humor. Just like there's Jewish humor. Yeah,
Jewish humor. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, there's no question about it. But the thing that I feel ashamed about, and again, it's the OCD kicking in. It was like, why did you make these conclusions? Like, I'm friends with Wanda, but for a long time I was closed off because I would listen to her and she's like, feeling good in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I have a terrible time with myself that I want to accuse myself of being bad. But so I can't even say, well, that's prejudice. But that was prejudice.
It was, but
yeah.
I mean, to me, when I see that, it just means that for whatever reason, excuse me, you don't have enough black people in your life that love you.
Right.
You know, and you need to with intention, because like me, I surround myself with everybody, and not that I want an award or a cookie or a like on Facebook, but yeah, I manage somehow as a creative spirit to surround myself with people that look like me, people that don't look like me, people that fucking don't look any fucking thing like me, people that dress like me, like the gamut. And I think the American experience, and I can't speak for white people because I'm not white, but I think the white American experience is to isolate yourself from as many different experiences as humanly possible, and only dibble and dabble in other people's experiences as you see fit and for what you want. And I think if I were, well, I was going to say if I were black, I am black, but what I think would be beneficial if white people just weren't afraid of black people. I think sometimes white people are just afraid that they're going to say something wrong or they're going to do something wrong, and I think
it also could be jealousy. Like back in the
jealousy,
day,
really,
because if I saw like a black comedian and they were like, I would say that guy's got all that bravado, that type of thing. I would also get jealous because there would be like, I fold like a cheap suit on stage if I'm getting heckled. So there was it's a weird thing. Like jealousy was all over my whole thing back then. So if I didn't, and I wouldn't even acknowledge that there was jealousy. So I think it's the thing like, well, I don't really he's putting on some mustard and I'm, so
well, there's good news. There's good news, Andy. Like you fuck with me now. Listen, I'll loan you some of my mojo, and
well, I'll tell you one thing I was very lucky about. This is lucky, and of course, I sound like a Jew trying to sound like he's progressive. But my parents would send us to summer camp every year, and it was a bad thing. From 8 years, just that they sent me away for 2 months when I was 7 years old. I was scared to death. But they were YMCA camps, and they were completely integrated. And I was like, so I had for a summer, I have this experience where if I hadn't had that, I think I would have had a way, way different life. When you're, and I kind of like was scared because they were like, this is all I'm talking about in therapy. They were horrible, like latrines and wasn't even outhouses. They like latrines, and a lot of it was so traumatic. But most of
Aw.
the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yes, well, summer
Plus,
camp was. I'm sorry, go ahead. But summer camp was the first place I got called a nigger in my life. But
well,
please,
let me
yeah,
finish.
yeah,
The
please.
joke goes, no, these were YMCA camps.
This was a YMCA camp. Are you serious?
No, there's no prejudice to YMCA.
Yeah, it was Hiram House Camp up at behind Hiram College. Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever been called a nigger. Yeah.
Well, then what would the YMHA camps have been like?
I don't know.
The Jewish camps would have been worse.
Okay, but yeah,
I'm not telling you. It's better that this happened.
It's fine. It's fine. I've recovered. But yeah, it was a kid. We were really good friends. And
How old were you?
12. Yeah,
Oh,
and because I mean this was 12. Yeah, I had really had a lot of interaction with white people until we moved to Shaker, and we moved to Shaker when I was 10. And long story short, I was at summer camp, and we pooled our last 25 cents to buy a carton of orange drink. And I went through the line and got it, and I'm getting ready to open. He's like, whoa. He said, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? What am I doing? He's like, white man drinking for a nigger. You know that. And I'm like, no, but and I gave it to him and he killed it. I mean, he downed it. Yeah. And he downed it in like one gulp, but then he hands me the carton and there's just orange dregs in it. And I'm like, it's a classic move. It's a classic moment from a movie scene. It's like, I think I've just learned a lesson. And but yeah, that was the first time I was called a nigger.
That's terrible.
I mean, by a white person, yeah. But right. But again, I'm.
Well, that's when it hurt. That's when it hurts.
Well, yeah, exactly,
Right?
exactly. And that white guy's name,
Bill Clinton.
I couldn't on the dime think of anybody ironic. I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
His name was. Oh God, I can't think of it.
Right.
We would have had someone good. We could have had someone good.
I wish. So can I? I'm going to tell you about my meeting with Barry. So
that'd be great.
So this was after my wife died. My only. I'm sorry. I've been married 3 times. I'm divorced twice, and the one I got right, the last wife, she passed away from cancer.
I'm so sorry.
We dated for 2 years. We got married. 6 months later, she was diagnosed, and a year and a half after that, she died. And all my friends were telling me, all my friends were like, oh, you got to power through this. You got to power through this. No mourning, just power through. And I took this advice. This was shitty advice, by the way. And I had secured Charlie Murphy for a script idea, a proof of concept. And but I wanted to see if I can get some big hitters as well. And so I was in LA. I had a meeting with Reggie Hudlin and trying to think who else, and another director who turned out to be a dick. A surprise, right? but I called Barry Katzenthal because I was familiar with his podcast, which his podcast is called The Industry Standard. I'm going to give him that shout out. And I was really familiar with this because this was during my stint. I was really coming hard. I was really trying to push hard as a screenwriter and sitcom. And, I just wanted to come to Hollywood. And so I just fucking bonsai kamikaze. I get to LA and I call up to his office. I talk to his assistant and she squeezes me in. For which I ended up buying her about $100 worth of like MAC makeup just as a thank you. Mm-hmm. Anyway, because it's Hollywood and you smooth and you grease palms and you do what you can. And she squoze me in. I mean, I was and am a nobody, And I go in there, and you've been to Barry's office. He's got the big.
I never was in his office because I mostly met him in Montreal.
Oh wow! Well, he's got this big, or at least then. This is in 2013, 14. He had this big Aerosmith, like Aerosmith paraphernalia from the tour, like stage paraphernalia, and this, that, or a third. And there he is in all his glory, and we sit down and now I'm about to pitch Barry Katz. And the first thing, and he says to me, because actually I want to see if I can get Tracy Morgan involved. This is just after Tracy's accident, and because of the script. I mean, this is the way if Tracy's fucked up and can't walk or any of that kind of shit, he can do some voiceover work. So I'm like, I'm sitting there, and he's like, blah, 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 and I'm like, yeah. But here's me. I'm like, yeah, I'm here pitching around town and tribute to my wife and yada, 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 my dead wife and yada, 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 yada. He's like, you know what? I'm so sorry to hear that your wife's dead, but don't open with that. And I was like,
so great.
It was a classic Hollywood moment. It was a classic Hollywood moment. It's like, yeah, don't, because he told me his story. I apparently he has a dead spouse or somebody in his family, and he's like, this is Hollywood. No one gives a shit. You know, and needless to
but
say,
you're pitching something about your wife too, right?
No, it was a sitcom. It was a
okay.
It was a sitcom. But he's like, yeah, no one gives a shit that your wife. Everybody's wife.
So
everybody's wife just died. You know, what are you here for? You know, what are you here for? And he gives me some. He listened to my pitch. He's like, and I tell him the story. He's like, what kind of sick fuck would think of some shit like that? He's like, and I'm like,
what do you mean about the show?
About my show. Yeah. And he's like, what kind of sick fuck would think of some shit like that? And I can't tell if he's half kidding or and I tell him, well, you know, Reggie's bitten and blah. He gives me like chapter and verse. Oh, Reggie doesn't need your fucking money and da da da. And I'm just sitting on the couch like,
can't believe it.
This is the best, worst experience I've ever had because I had the audacity. Because listen, I'm a nobody. I'm from the Midwest. I had the audacity to hop a fucking plane, you know, wiggle around the fucking toilet handle, and I got a meeting. I got a meeting with the player, and but what I'm thinking though in the meantime is he just took this meeting, you know, for sport. Essentially, that he's just
yes, he's going to show you.
He just took this meeting for sport.
What an idiot! I'm sorry, but there's a part of him he's an idiot.
But this, I was going to say, there's a part of me that really feels like it was really sweet. You know,
well, I think there is a part of him that's sweet. I don't even know him as much as other people know him. I just know the reputation preceded him.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about it, but in many ways. I think I appreciated his candor, and it would be the first of a few, I should say, such kinds of interactions with people where, you know, I got to learn about, you know, Hollywood versus the rest of the world. Like, you know,
right.
And that was shocking.
And you probably don't open with that anymore.
Right. I don't.
But just that he would, to me, that's the funniest thing in the world, that he's a stand-up comic manager.
Right.
And he pitches to you like you're a stand-up, like, you know, you're opening up for show. Don't open. You know, you can close with your wife dying. That's different.
Yeah. He, for those people that don't know, Dana Cook, Tracy Morgan, I don't know if he's still managing Tracy Morgan, but he's a hitter. He's a player. And it just the look on his face. He gave me the classic, you know, the hand pyramid, you know, at the desk. He's like leaning back, and he's like,
hand pyramid.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, don't open with that, you know. But sweet guy.
You're such a great writer. I can tell you're a great writer. Yeah, I can always tell people when people are writers. Like, I consider myself a writer, but I'm much more words oriented, so that. It'd be hard for me to even think of that, doing the hand pyramid. He's doing the church and the steeple.
Right. Well, you're a writer. What are you working on these days?
Well, I've only forever, I tried to be like I did 2, what they call blind script deals.
Right.
I wrote a script about when I had a stereo store, when I was a manager of a stereo store. And I wrote another script about like me and my alternative comedy friends in the 90s. And I sold those 2 scripts, but I just realized, but they didn't go anywhere. But now I just realize it's the good thing about being in your 60s, and if you've had, and thank God for therapy and everything. It's like I only really want to write for myself.
Mhm.
Now I'm working on one thing where I draw. Well, obviously, I don't know that I draw, but I'm into graphic memoirs because I love Daniel Klaus. I love all the drawing and
Mhm.
Crumb and all the stuff. So I'm working on like an autobiography, which would be just drawings and writings.
Mhm.
So whenever I write now, for a long time, I spent a lot of life wondering I should be a screenwriter. I should get up every day, and I never could do that
Mhm.
because I'm trying now to get to more of a point where I see that there's no separation between the right. There should be no separation between having fun, coming up with ideas,
Yes.
and and for so many years there was. I mean, like, do you look forward to writing? Like, to me, it was always like if I made it a formal thing, I would always dread it. And also, I had a couple of these book deals, which were like, I shouldn't have. I didn't even take the deal, but they were like, "What's the 10 most horrible things about America?" You know, it was all these
Mhm.
like, because you got to sell a book and you got to. So it was all going against my grain. So I do obviously still like writing, but I don't think of it as like writing. Do you like formal writing type stuff?
I think of it. Good writing is like a satisfying, like beer piss. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. It's imperative. It's right there, and it's like you better. And but so often I feel as if I've missed the bowl. So often I feel as if yeah. Yeah, I feel as if I've missed the bowl, and so it becomes an exercise in futility, and I'm just like, well, I guess maybe next time I'll I'll get it in the toilet, but yeah, it's right now. I mean, I'm a journalist, so I don't or I have my life. I'm like a retired recovering journalist, so but a lot of the stuff I'm writing nowadays is production oriented, journalism oriented, and
Right.
so I regret that. I mean, because I planned by 50 to have had at least one sitcom and one movie, if not done in production, and yeah, that didn't happen. So, or it hasn't happened yet.
It's not. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's a very exciting time right now because it really is like you don't have to necessarily live anywhere specific,
Right.
and you know,
I got some stuff in the works. I got some stuff in the works, but yeah, it's
we all have stuff. I have stuff in the works too. Don't tell me.
yeah, right. Your mailman everybody's mailman has a script like in their back pocket. You know,
No, but you know, it's like you're very funny. I can tell that you're. I mean, I already know. You're
that's
very,
really sweet. Thank you.
no, it's just like you can tell those things. You know.
Yeah, I also have this bad tick. Like when I talk to comedians, I feel like I have to be funny, you know. And you know Ramon Rivas, and Ramon came by the house, and I'm sitting there trying to make it, and you know he's really laconic, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just throwing him out. I'm thinking I'm killing, and he's like, you know. And I'm like, I'm dying here, which segues into were you on that writing team from Dying Up Here, or were you just an actor
Oh,
on
I
that
was
show?
no, I was brought on just to play the agent,
Okay,
which I loved.
okay.
Yeah.
So let's
But that
turn
was
on.
Britain. The book that it was based on. Did we talk about this already? The book it was based on was
It's
great.
on the which was about the Comedy Store.
Yeah, Canadal Seder, or yeah, it's really the show. What'd you think of the show? I think it was like I liked the drama of it, but you know what's one of the things I keep seeing is like the way that they portray stand up. It's so
Mhm.
hard to portray stand up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't watch the Mrs. Maisel stuff, but like when you know the crowds, they're supposed to laugh,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just makes it all. It's very hard to capture it.
Yeah,
On film.
I wasn't a big fan. I wasn't a big fan of that particular show. And not for nothing. When I come to LA, I stay at the Grafton, which is across from the store.
Oh,
Yeah. So
wait a second. Which hotel? How long has that been there?
the
A
Grafton,
while, I guess.
the Grafton.
Yeah,
I don't
it
know
has
how long
been
it's
there a
been
while.
there. I'm not from LA, but I mean, yeah, but it's down the street from that Best Western, which I think
Right.
I think the next time I come, I'm going to go there because I don't fucking have grafted money now. I got Best Western or maybe even Quality Inn, money, or maybe Joe's Hostel,
The way you're saying that, I think of I would love so much about how Harvey would write about.
Mhm.
And then they said if I flew the person in, then I could get another ticket. And that I just love that he would write about those.
He had a very Midwestern perspective. He had a working man's, and that was the one thing we have in common, among other things. It's just kind of a working man's perspective about money, about fame, about writing. One of the last conversations I had with Harvey was about, he was asking me he's like, so can you get me some freelance? And I'm like, Harvey, if anything comes down the pike, I'll be happy to throw you a bone. Because at the time I was doing something wacky with one of the local publications, and he just loved to write, and he never missed an opportunity to try to make some bread. You know what I mean? That's his thing. That was his thing.
Well, his whole language. I mean, I don't know what you call that, but his whole, hey man, like there's a story. Was it Dean?
Jazz. I mean, he had like a jive language. Yeah,
Is it Dean Haspiel? Dean?
I did not know the artist, but I imagine his name is pronounced Haspiel.
So he said that because he writes about, or maybe I'm mixing up the stories, where he was supposed to call, get a call from Harvey. Mm-hmm. And then he didn't know it was Harvey, but he talked to his friend. He goes, I don't know. This guy called. He's all like jazzy and he's all like man. And he goes, that was Harvey.
Yeah. Harvey talked like a jazz musician. Like he might have played harmonica in like somebody's street jazz band. But he was a super sweet guy. And as I said, the Jewish grandfather, I think everybody deserves. Certainly the one I deserved, and I do miss him. Joyce is still around. I haven't been to visit her, and I'm going to have to go now. I'm going to have to go see her now because when this comes out, she's gonna ring my phone like.
When Harvey's mentioned, she hear.
I'm almost positive that she has in her like Google search thing, like like if there's any mention of like a Harvey P. car, it'll pop up in her.
I love Joyce. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. I know everything.
Joyce is dope. Joyce.
I know about your daughter. I know everything. I know every story.
Danielle is super sweet. One of my favorite Danielle stories is when we went by to visit Joyce, and I was by we, I mean me and my son. And my son was a little intimidated by Danielle because Danielle can be a lot. She's kind of got the goth thing going. But Danielle came and she was taking really great care of my son. She was, by great care, I mean, she was making sure he had, the accoutrement, the drink, the cookies. And also, nice. And also I think she set him up with like markers and a piece of paper. And at one point I saw her some years later and I was like, yeah, and for a while, he was asking me about that. He's like, "Yeah, we should go back over and see that one girl, with the black lipstick." I was just yeah. I mean, he was really enamored with the way that Danny's really sweet, and so is Joyce, and Harvey in a lot of ways embodied what's good and right about Cleveland, but also accurate. I mean, it's Cleveland. Midwestern life is a hustle, and I think that's what a lot of his work was about. The struggle from first generation American Jewish immigrant to trying to make something out of this American life. I didn't mean to do. I've learned so much
from him and from his and it's weird because it's more like. I've read probably everything 5, 6, 7 times. So
you read the comic books or you read the graphic novel?
I have all the comic books and the original. Oh, wow. Yeah. I have almost all of them in the original form. I may be lying about that.
Okay, yeah.
Because I don't think you can get some of them.
They're really difficult to find. You can eBay them, but I don't have them all.
I'm not a collector. I'm not a collector like that. You ever read any Chris Ware?
No.
Oh, Chris Ware he's a very funny. He does the Acme Novelty Company is the name of his. But he just writes about.
I'll look him up.
He hates collectors and people who are the completists. They have to have. I have whatever they're collecting, they have to have the whole thing. But Yeah. So, but I got some of them in collections, obviously too.
Mhm.
And
So w- we could go on all fucking night. So
I know.
let's turn the corner.
I'm going to let you be in charge of your own show.
God bless you.
You know what? Let's try that out.
So what do you got going on now, and what's next for Andy Kindler?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm very excited about one thing.
Yes.
And I think that if anybody has $10, please download my new album, which has been out since last May. I did a DVD that my wife directed many, many years ago. This is my first actual comedy album after 35 years. It's called Hence the Humor.
She directed that documentary you did, yeah?
I
Wish I Was Bitter?
Yeah, but that's not that's actually just, there's some documentary, but it's actually just a club set, and then there's back scene stuff. Yeah, she directed that. Mm-hmm. And this was the first album. And because of, it's so funny, I just realized, of course I love Harvey because he must have had OCD worse than me. Because he would he'd worry about, I think I hit that car. Did I hit that car? I leave a note. I mean, who would write about that? Thank God. And would make me feel like there's somebody else in the world who has my problems. So my problem was I kept was completing projects. I would never complete things. And then I had this record, Hence the Humor, in 2013 at the Upright Citizens Brigade. Then all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and I realized they kept pushing me, put it out digitally. I said, I wanted to have an album. I realized, no, now I never want to have an album now. Now, of course, of the pandemic, the last thing I need is after a show, someone come up with some germ-filled album or something. Here, sign my old Dr. Katz.
Right.
This is perfect. I will never see people again. So, but I'm very proud of it. It's digitally, you can digitally get it. And it's like, I think it's the thing I'm most proud of because I can't even remember one joke from it, but I really kind of, for some reason, achieved what I've always wanted, which was like not always wanted. It's like it's stream of consciousness, but it seems like seamless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't need to remember a joke. You make people buy the funny. Where can people pick it up?
Oh, just anywhere you can download anything. Anywhere. Like I think it's the name of the record company is aspecialthing.com. But
what's the name of it again? What's the name of your DVD?
Hence the Humor.
Hence the Humor.
Because I was at, Leo Allen? I don't know if you know Leo Allen.
I don't.
He's a comedian from the East Coast. We were at a big party once, and everybody was coming, doing. He goes, I said, "What's happening out there?" And he goes, "This guy did this guy, this guy." I said, "Hence the Humor." And then he said, "You got to use that for an album title," and he was right.
God bless that guy.
God bless Leo Allen. So that's so I have that going on, and then the other thing is the main thing I have going on all the time is I do these speeches every year in Montreal. What's wrong with comedy? And that's also, I think you can get it on. But the last year I couldn't go to Montreal, so it's all online. And that's basically it. The other thing is I'm trying to make a stand-up, something called Stand Up the Musical, which is kind of a making fun of the stand-up comedy boom, like it was as if it was the show Hair, it was Aquarius, or so it's like. So I'm writing about that, and because that's one of my things is I got into being a critic. I didn't know I was going to be a critic, but I got into like saying things negatively about famous comedians sometimes, like Leno and stuff like that. And so I kind of got like, what do you call that? A bad boy.
I see. And people should know where they can see your work. You're prolific. You're a prolific voice actor. Home movies.
You could. Oh, if you like Twitter, that's the place where I will always say what I'm doing.
Good.
Right now, I'm recurring on Bob's Burgers. So, and that's perfect for the quarantine too.
Yes.
And also I've been doing these things called cameos. You know Cameo, right?
I know of it. Yeah. So people pay you like $50 to call.
No, 35. Come on, please don't try and discourage business. Why are you discouraged? People will think it's 50. I'm not Howie Mandel. I'm not $35. I have to tell you, It's one of the best things I've ever done because people love it. They enjoy it. There's really no pressure. They like it.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I thought it would be like the most embarrassing thing.
Mm-hmm. So
But-
you're doing $35 cameos. You're on Bob's Burger.
I'm on Bob's Burgers.
You play what's your character on Bob's Burgers?
I play Mort the Mortician.
Mort. That's right. And shout out to Karen Shaw, right? Isn't that her? Is that my
Kristen? Yes. And how funny she. Also, all these people are stand-up. Like Eugene Merman, I've known forever,
Mm-hmm.
who plays one of the kids,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a Dan Mintz who plays the sister. He's a great stand-up comic.
I had such a crush on Kirsten, and then she got married in 2012.
What was she thinking? Did she know that you had a crush?
She didn't, but there's still time. And
That's right.
I've seen the guy, so it's like
Forget it, right? That's so.
And also, not for nothing, people can find you every night in bed with me and my wife as we watch my girlfriend as we watch reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond. You play Andy, one of Raymond's other sports writing friends, and you pop up every now and again.
Yeah, I'm in. How many episodes am I in? I'm in 29 episodes.
Yeah,
I haven't counted them. But you know what I think is weird is that you're doing this new thing where you make me, where you can watch the video with friends. What's it called? Sling video.
I guess.
So every night you make me watch Raymond with you too, and I think that's odd. That is very odd.
I just have an addiction to really good TV, and that's some really fucking good TV. I like the writing on Everybody Loves Raymond a great deal.
It's really incredible. It's really
crisp.
great writing.
It's very crisp, and the writing on that one Kevin show,
King of Queens.
Man, just amazing. And Jerry Stiller is great in that. I really enjoy that, and I always wanted them actually. And see, we're about to go down another hole, but I always wanted them to do a spinoff with Deacon and Kelly because I thought Deacon and Kelly were good. I thought they could have held their own show. I really believe that. And the one guy that annoyed the fuck out of me that I'm glad they got rid of is the guy that sounded like they had pulled him from like a pizza roll commercial. and I was like, if I were Italian, I'd be so fucking pissed.
Who was he on the show? I don't remember. Who was he? He was a regular?
He was a regular. And he was in the first 2 or 3 seasons.
Not Gary Valentine, right? Not Kevin's brother.
No. That guy's good. No. There was Moose, when you come in and we got it. And it was just like, oh, come on. If I'm Italian, I'm burning down the studio. It's like this. It was over the top. It was over the top, but they did get rid of him, and they ended up getting rid of him, and they kept, of course, Patton Oswalt and Deacon, who's the actor whose name I actually forget.
I can't remember his name. Yeah,
I can't. But King of Queens is like the only thing he really did. He ran that the guy that played Deacon.
That was probably on 10 seasons or something.
Yeah, so he's good. He's good. I think I saw him in an episode of NCIS, maybe 6 months ago. You're gonna make me look it up. I'm gonna look it up after we get off. But
it just reminds me of all these. Every time I would go for a 1 hour thing, I would never got them, and I went on so many of them. So one was like CSI, and I'll never forget this. It was the role of a guy who collects used women's panties. That's the role I had to play, right? So this is a totally true story. So I'm in the waiting room, and I hear the guy before me, and he's doing the role, and he's knocking on he's acting so much. So I actually called my agent, my manager. I said, "This guy, what's that sound? What is that sound I'm hearing?" My manager's very funny. He goes, "That's the sound of someone getting apart." So I go.
That's awful. That's awful.
I go into this room, and it's a part of it. Someone who likes to collect used women's panties. After it, I'm trying to say things, and afterwards they're staring at me. These writers. Yeah. It's so uncomfortable. And it's like, I felt like going, fuck you. You wrote this horrible part of the sick guy. You're looking at me like I'm the guy.
Right.
Likes the panties. It's your writing.
Jesus Christ.
I didn't get the part.
You didn't get the part. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, 1 hour dramas. I haven't done well on them.
That's all right. You've done well in other ways.
I am very happy. I hope I have not come across I have never been happier in my life. And I thank God for therapy. And there's no more conflict in my life. So I'm no longer funny.
You didn't get that part, but you made it on Conversation for Adults. And I'm right. You made it.
We have to have a follow-up because we can't do it all. You can't have a conversation with an adult that's this short. It has to go on.
Not only will we do a follow-up, my friend, we're going to stay in touch.
I know we will.
And this has been really fulfilling. I had no idea. I never, when I sit down and do these, I don't have any idea where they're going to go.
Well, you're great. You're great. You're great. You know, you're really, you're just, it's, you know, like you're seamless. You probably don't feel seamless, but you are seamless with how you conduct the show.
Can I put that quote on the DVD when?
Yes.
All right.
Don't put out that's what I'm going to do with all, because I have that's right. I didn't even plug my own podcast. I have a podcast called Thought Spiral.
Yes, I absolutely need you to do that. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Josh Elvis Weinstein. And we just talk, we call it 2 Jews, 2 microphones, 2 hours. That's what we talk about.
That's not bad.
And we talk about,
I was going to say you could have did 2 live Jews, but that's been taken. You know? Yeah.
So that is available, but no one, that is available only on vinyl, my podcast. You have to buy it on vinyl.
Stop. People can generally get that wherever they get their podcast.
Yeah, usually. I love that when they go, get it here, get it there, or wherever you choose to get your podcast.
Right.
I have a vending machine that gives me my podcast. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no money. I'm sure you know. I know you told me you happen to be making a lot of money, but I'm not making as much as you are on the podcast.
There's no profit model that works if your last name isn't Marin. So, but the rest of us will figure it out in time. I think. Let
me know if Joyce says anything.
I will.
Because I'm going to be hanging on.
I will. Andy Kindler, comedian, extraordinaire, superstar. People can find you on the Twitter.
Yeah, mostly on Twitter because I don't. I actually just opened up an Instagram thing, but I don't really understand how it works. And Facebook, it always frightened me. So Twitter, is where I have a website, but nobody. Do you want a website where none of the information changes? Then maybe Andy Kindler's for you.
Right.
Do you see his 2004 road schedule? Go right now to andykindler.com.
Andy, I'm so happy that you've come and joined me for Conversation for Adults. You'll come back again for sure.
Absolutely, I want you to feel better, and I do not want you to be. I don't want these strokes to be like a recurring character.
Thank you.
Everybody loves Raymond. You should be one and done. Look at you. You're full of life.
Oh man, you're gonna make me cry. Thank you so much. Listen, give my best to your sister and your wife.
I will.
And till we meet again, take care of yourself.
Thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye
This was fun.
The number you have dialed has been changed.